Hello. This is Ira Glass. Welcome back to This American Life on NPR. I'm Ira Glass. This is NPR.
Hello, and this is Link Labrador, the American war dog of the furry fandom.
Yes, thank you, Link Labrador. Today we're interviewing Link Labrador about whatever subject that he chooses on This American Life by Ira Glass. This is NPR.
Yes,
What subject would you like to talk about, Sir Labrador?
the Labrador would be interested in the topic of economic stability and making sure that you protect your assets from weird individuals who want to sue you.
That is an excellent topic. All right, so out of character from Ira Glass now. My name is Neil Fox, and I am the president for life of the furry fandom, democratically elected, of course. I'm also the democratically elected president of time and space, and I hope to be, eventually, the democratically elected president of the United States. Now, how does one define an asset? Because if we're talking about protecting assets, we got to start at the very beginning. What is an asset?
An asset is in the simplest terms, a piece of property, a item, an artifact, a physical object, a tangible object, and or a digital object that creates economic flow in the positive direction. Now, before I finish, to balance that statement out just a little bit, the other question is, what is a liability? A liability is a object that has the potential of losing you money. Think of it like a toy, like an ATV that you buy for yourself. Technically a liability if it's not tied up under the correct documentation, because a business could buy an ATV. An individual could buy an ATV. The difference between the two is purpose for tax statements. In my own personal opinion, I'm hearkening back to Rich Dad Poor Dad for all of my for those statements.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. Fantastic book. You guys should probably go read it. Now,
Recommended by me?
What?
I recommended that book to you, my love.
Yes. Neil Fox also recommends it. Again, this is not a sponsored bit. So,
Robert Kiyosaki, call me.
again, this isn't a sponsored bit. Please sponsor us.
I would be more than happy. Robert Kiyosaki, if you ever listen to this podcast or one of your staff, I would be more than happy to play your game called The Rat Race. I would be more than happy to play it on a stream and show people how to play and how to win the rat race of life.
Yes.
So, your definition is incorrect, my love.
Okay.
So, you are somewhat correct, but your definition is a bit muddled and confused. Okay?
Like myself.
Correct. Puppies are often muddled and confused. That's fine. That's just how puppies are. So,
Buttons on this thing we got.
he's distracted by shiny buttons. It is important when you're talking about a base concept,
Yeah.
like what is an asset, it is important to define it in very simple terms. Now, we can add a lot of the information that you mentioned, but we need to start with a very simple definition. Okay? So, in terms of a business, or in terms of a person, an asset is something that has positive financial value.
Yes.
A liability is something that has negative financial value. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what would be an example of an asset? Just give any example of something that has positive financial value for yourself or for a business.
A brick of gold.
Okay, good example. So, a brick of gold is, last I looked at the numbers, worth somewhere around $300,000. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the exact number,
Yep.
but it's roughly around $300,000. So, do you know the concept of what's called double entry bookkeeping?
Double entry bookkeeping is a concept that I'm going to pass right back into your corner.
I have been served the ball!
Yes.
Thank you for giving me the ball, Sir Labrador. Now, double entry bookkeeping is a concept that was invented by some of the people in the time of Machiavelli. It was invented in the 1600s, if I recall correctly, because that was when banking started to become an important business in Italy. So, if I recall correctly, that's where it was invented. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, that's where it became popular at the very least. So it became popular with people doing shipping. It became popular with people doing banking. And then eventually it became popular with business owners, merchants, stores, etc. So, double entry bookkeeping is a very simple way to be able to do your books more accurately. Now, I won't go into all the details because it is quite complicated, and I am not an expert. I am not an accountant. I hate accounting. Accounting is boring. I love statistics because statistics are fascinating. Statistics can predict the future with very, very high degree of accuracy. Bookkeeping is just, how many beans do we have? That's why it's called bean counters. So,
I'll count your beans.
oh my. 1 bean? 2 beans?
Your toe beans.
Toe bean? Anyway,
Is
so,
this the adult podcast or is this safe for work?
this will be an adult podcast, yes.
Okay.
So, I will have to remember to make sure to put it as not safe for work. But anyway, because I doubt many kids would be very interested in the concept of double entry bookkeeping.
I mean, they tried to shoehorn politics into Star Wars, so who knows what children are into these days?
Darling, when was Star Wars not about politics? What is an empire? Define an empire.
An emperor wanting to build a giant fuck-off death laser with
No.
samurais.
Where did the name emperor come from? From the Roman Empire. It probably came from before that, but that's where it popularized it, was from the Roman emperors.
Yeah.
Were the Roman emperors politicians, my love?
Yes.
Now, what is someone who starts a political rebellion?
A rebel.
A terrorist.
Depending on your own personal morals and values.
I know.
One calls them a terrorist, the other calls them a rebel.
I know. And so I find it fascinating to look at Star Wars from the perspective of a historian. I'm not a trained historian, but just as a student of history. Let me put it that way. As a student of history, I find it fascinating to look at Star Wars as a concept, because if you are a stormtrooper living on the Death Star, or living on a planet or whatever, and your friends on the Death Star get blown up, then the rebels are terrorists.
Yes!
But if you are the rebels, fighting for freedom and justice and equality for all species of aliens,
You know, blowing up the galaxy's most expensive super weapon.
blowing up... Hold on. Blowing up... Let's put this in terms that are easier to understand with our modern context. It would be the equivalent of blowing up the Pentagon.
20 times over.
Well, we'll use the example of the Pentagon because it is by far the largest military building in the world.
Yes.
Like, no other building even is close.
No.
Like, an aircraft carrier is at least on the same level, but it is not even close to the same size. So, blowing up the Pentagon would be the equivalent of blowing up the Death Star.
Yes.
Now, is America an empire?
We try not to be.
Incorrect.
I mean, we try not to be for PR reasons. We might as well be.
Incorrect.
We are an empire.
Yes! What is an empire? Do you need me to read you the definition?
No.
Okay, I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
Define empire. Whoops. An extensive group of states or countries under a single supreme authority, especially ruled by an emperor or empress.
Okay.
Now, let's go through that piece by piece. Is America an extensive group of states?
Yes.
Does America have large amounts of control over multiple countries, such as NATO?
Yes.
Is the United States and its territories and its allies controlled primarily by a single supreme authority? Yes.
Yes, it really shouldn't be, but yes.
Now, to be fair, to give America the slightest, tiniest, most minuscule amount of credit, we do have a government with 3 branches, which is better than one single emperor, for sure. You know, we have a Congress, we have a Supreme Court, and we have a presidency. And supposedly, they should have roughly equal power. Now, that is usually not the case in any point in American history, but they are supposed to be roughly equal in power. Now, that is not as well defined in the Constitution as it should be, but when you go through the Federalist Papers and all of these different documents that were written around the time by all the people who wrote the Constitution and signed the Constitution, they talked about this extensively, of like, we want to make sure that we have a balance of power between the states and the federal government, or between the Congress and the president, or between the Supreme Court and the lower courts, for example. So, this is one of the reasons why America is not a dictatorship.
For now.
Because, goddamn, if he could have, Donald Trump would have made it into a dictatorship with him as the dictator. Thank God we have a government that has a balance of power between various different forces.
Yes.
So,
they're just slowly replacing the Supreme Court with Republicans at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And even the Supreme Court at this point is going, guys, for fuck's sake, I'm tired of hearing about this shit.
Yeah.
States, figure it out. You're gonna overturn Roe v. Wade and make abortions illegal. No, the individual states will figure out if it's illegal or legal.
See, now I have a very different opinion about this, my love.
No, I personally think that we should, as a country, sit down and have the conversation of, let's talk about the Constitution we have, and sit down and talk about it like civilized adults. Yep.
But, by the way,
assess the Constitution as a collective body to see if there are aspects of the Constitution that should be changed, because when they set it up 250 fucking years ago, there are many, many concepts that our founding fathers did not take into account because they were
such as women.
Exactly.
The concept of women.
Again.
Women. Half the population.
As a country, I personally do not have the full context to make a informed, overarching agreement or disagreement of what the Supreme Court is doing.
I have that information. Would you like me to tell you?
He does. Let me finish.
Okay.
So, what I have been doing is educating myself on what the Constitution says, on what the Supreme Court's been up to, on making decisions for myself about X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Talking to people that are far smarter than I, because there's nothing wrong with talking to people that are smarter than you. You don't want to be the smartest fucking person in the room. You're an idiot if you're the smartest person in the room.
Correct.
You are the dumbest person in the room.
Correct.
Go find someone smarter than you. It's not hard.
Correct. Now, this actually brings up a really good point, because this is something that I wish that more people understood, especially teachers.
Yes.
Okay? Especially teachers, especially college professors, because they are used to being the smartest person in the classroom.
Yes.
And that is completely normal. Of course, in a class of kindergartners, the teacher is the smartest person in the room,
Which is fine.
of course they are. In a class of college students, there is an exceptionally high likelihood that the professor is the smartest person in the room. That is not always the case, but is generally the case.
Yes.
Now, I am a person who is intelligent by every different definition that you could put. And I actually have a lot of trouble telling people this concept, because it is almost impossible for me to talk about it without sounding like an arrogant asshole.
Okay, yep.
So, it is a fact that on every standardized test that I have ever taken, I scored exceptionally high. That is a fact. I am not stating that because I have pride. I'm not stating that because I'm a narcissist, despite the fact that I am a narcissist. I am not stating that to bolster my own ego. I'm just saying that because it is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as I have a disability, I have mental health issues, I score very highly on standardized tests.
I, on the other hand, score very lowly on. I score very highly on standardized tests as well, when I can read the damn things. Be able to read it and then tell you, oh yeah, this, that, yeah. No big deal. Other than that, it's like, I'm a goldfish.
I know.
It's terrible.
So, let me get to my point, which is, I am not, by any stretch, I am not the smartest person. I score, generally speaking, around the 98th percentile, which means that in a room of 100 average people, in a room of 100 randomly selected people, I'm around the top 1 or 2 or 3%. So in a room of 100 people, I'm the first, second, third, fourth smartest person in the room, somewhere around there. And so people like me, who are more intelligent than the average person, including people who are college professors, people who are doctors, people who are lawyers, are used to being the smartest person in the room. Because in a room of 10 people, there's a very high chance that they are the smartest person in the room. In a group of 100 people, it's pretty likely that they're at least close to the top. In a group of 1 million people, they are definitely not the smartest person in the room.
No.
In a group of 1 million people, there are going to be several hundred people who are smarter than you.
Yes.
And so,
which is neither a good thing nor a bad thing.
No, it's not. It is a fact. Facts are not good or bad. They are simply true.
Yes.
The speed of light is a constant. The speed of light is a specific amount of meters per second. That is not a good thing. That is not a bad thing. It is just a fact.
No, it's just the RAM speed of the universe. It's fine.
Correct. But
more on that later.
We'll get back to quantum physics and time travel in another episode. We've got a lot to talk about there. But I'm trying to get to a point, which is, I learned at a very very young age from my mother, who is a very talented educator and a doctor, to seek out people who are smarter than you.
Me too!
I'm sure you learned this from your mom.
Yes!
Because I would say at least 90% of people, probably more like 95% of people, do not like when someone corrects them. Or they do not like to be wrong.
No.
Now, I do not enjoy being wrong, obviously. I am a narcissist. Of course I hate being wrong. But I am also a scientist. And a scientist has to have the humility to be able to say, okay, you've presented me evidence that has proven me incorrect. It was not a bad thing that I was incorrect. I was just wrong. And that's okay.
Which creates opportunity for dialogue and conversation.
Correct.
Which my partner and I, we've had many in-depth private conversations, including the meaning of life, including the meaning of decision-making, and other topics that we're not going to go into here. But again, one of the keys that make a relationship work is communication and humility.
Correct.
Take Bill Gates and his wife. Some of the richest people on fucking earth. They couldn't... I don't know what happened between those two.
And they kept it mostly private, so pretty much nobody knows other than them.
Exactly. Could have just been, hey, I'm getting tired of you. Getting tired of looking at you. You're getting tired of looking at me. You were on the Pornhub and you were on the Grinder and I caught you cheating and how dare you? You don't love me no more. Are you bored of me? And we're like, guys,
right.
There's more life than just sex. Sex does not make a relationship.
No, it does not.
You can't found a relationship on sex. Trust me, my ex tried.
Yeah.
And she flat out asked me, are you bored of me? I'm bored of the decisions you're making. They're not fun.
Correct.
They're not interesting.
Well,
there's no...
Well, let me finish. Sorry, go ahead.
One of the other reasons why I left my ex was she chose to just stay put. She decided to stay too grounded without moving forward with responsibilities.
Right.
She refused to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Her mother was actively telling her to just never get a job, don't get a job, never get a job, never get a job, because you lose all your benefits. I'm like,
that's incorrect. And even if it were correct, even if that were true, why not go and volunteer at a soup kitchen?
I tried to get her to do that, but
literally, one day a week will not kill you.
No.
To go and do something nice for your community. If you are a religious person, host a potluck at your church every Sunday.
Yeah.
Everyone will love it. And it's not that much work.
No.
You literally, to host a church potluck, all you have to do is go to the pastor and say, I would like to host a potluck. Can you put it in next week's bulletin?
Yeah.
And all of the little old ladies at the church will make cookies and soups and bread and all of this, and you come together and you have done almost no work yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody has delicious food, everybody has a fun time, and they go, oh, you did such a wonderful thing putting this together. Thank you so much for doing this. You are wonderful. And doesn't that feel good?
Yes!
Like, you have done a good thing by doing that. That did not take very much work.
No, it didn't.
Like, how much work did it take to put together the meats that we did?
It was more work keeping the meats from becoming anarchy and chaos. Actually putting them together, relatively simple.
Right. So just to prove my point, if someone wants to do a meetup, and it doesn't have to be a furry meetup, it could be a meetup for knitters, it could be a meetup for gun enthusiasts, it could be a meetup for fishermen.
Just keep the alcohol away from the guns. You should be fine. Guys,
I
don't...
didn't know guns drank so much alcohol.
Guys.
Hey guys! Colt 45 here. I'm really drunk right now.
Guys, just don't play the shotgun beer shooting game.
Jesus Christ.
Don't worry about it.
But my
Done a lot of dumb shit.
my point that I'm trying to get to is we set up a group on Telegram.
Yep.
We set up a group, and then I set up a bot to just post every week announcing that there was going to be a meetup that week.
Yep.
So that way I didn't have to remember to do it.
Exactly.
And what do you know? Everybody got on board and said, hey, okay, there's a meetup that happens every week. If I want to go, I can go and bring some food.
Yep.
If I
no
don't,
alcohol?
No, and we had some very specific rules.
Yes.
And I bring this up because people have been saying some very funny things online.
Yes.
Like, oh, well, you're accusing Majira of being a rapist, and you had sex at your parties. And I'm like, are you stupid?
Legal, consensual. There was nobody... Okay, I wouldn't say there was nobody drunk, but we tried to keep that as low as humanly possible.
We had a policy against drinking.
Yes.
So if someone breaks that policy, that's on them.
Yes.
So we had some very specific ground rules to make it safe for everyone.
Yes.
1, no alcohol ever.
Exactly.
Because it was a not safe for work meetup.
Yes.
So just for those listening who probably, many of you probably have not been to our meetups because, only a couple of hundred people ever came. So, if we have several thousand people or several 100,000 people listening, obviously not all of them have come to our meetup. So let me just explain real quick. So we would host a furry meetup every Saturday.
Yep.
And it was from 4 p.m. until around midnight, oftentimes later, but around midnight was when we would generally close up shop. And it was very specific rules. It was day one, from day one, my number one rule was no drama.
Yes.
If you are a drama queen, do not come to the meetup. Anytime someone would start drama of, well, this person said this, and this person said this, and yeah, now you have to make a decision of who's right and who's wrong, I would say, I don't care. Figure it out, and do not talk about it at my house.
You guys are adults.
If you need to work out a disagreement, by all means, work it out, but do it away from me, not in my house, and not in my chat. And people would be like, oh, but they said this, and it's important because this... I don't care.
Take it up with one of the moderators.
No. That's not what I said. I said, take it out of the chat.
Yes.
You are not allowed to discuss your disagreements in my chat.
No.
You can discuss it in private as much as you want. But you cannot form tribes of people in my chat, pitting them against one another, because that is how groups die.
Yes.
That is the quickest way to have a group fail, is by having several teams of people fighting against each other.
Yeah, we towards the very end of the meets, we had to bring down the hammer on our own moderation staff.
Yeah.
Because...
don't worry about that right now, my love. I'm telling the beginning of the story. You're telling the end of the story. So let's roll it back. We will get to the end of the story eventually, but it's not going to be in this podcast.
No, it won't.
All right, so the meets had very specific ground rules, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
The first few meets that I did for however many months it was, probably a couple dozen meets, it was completely safe for work. So it was, no inappropriate touching, inappropriate. No adult touching, no, you could, kiss or hold hands or something, but no, sexual behavior anywhere in the house. Not including behind closed doors, obviously, but in the public space, no sexual contact of any kind. And so I decided that I would change the rule, and I would say, after 8 p.m., people can go down to their underwear if they want. They do not have to. It is not a requirement. It is not an underwear party. It is optional. If you want to wear underwear and nothing else, you can. But you must, under every circumstance, you must have full consent. And we will not allow any person under the age of 18 for any reason. And I was very specific. I said, I will not allow an exception for any reason. And again, that is to protect us.
Yes.
And to protect the attendees.
Yep.
Because if someone lies about their age, which to my knowledge no one ever did, but I mean, several hundred people came, so it is possible that happened. I don't know. But if someone lied about their age, knowing the rules, that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the rule in place. It is similar to the reason why we have laws.
Yes.
Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. You know, it's a party where you can wear underwear in the public space. If you are not over the age of 18, you are not welcome in the door. And also, we had a compromise between various different people of, okay, so some people do not want to be at a party where people are wearing nothing but underwear. Great. You can come from 4 to 8 p.m. You can enjoy the food, enjoy the company, and then before 8 p.m., you can head home if you want to.
Yep.
And so, to those people who had the gall to say, oh, well, you're as bad as Majira. No!
We are better than him.
I had exceptionally specific ground rules of consent, no underage people, and verbal consent must be established before anything happens ever. You know, if you're gonna cuddle with someone, if you're gonna kiss someone, if you're gonna grope someone, whatever, do it safely and make sure there is full consent 100% of the time. And if anyone revokes consent or is not comfortable for any reason, they can say stop at any time. Now, I do not know, because I am not an intimate friend with Majira. I mean, I exchanged a lot of messages with him, but I was just his merch manager. I wasn't like his best friend or something. You know, you exchange a lot of people. You exchange a lot of messages with people you do business with.
Yes.
I was never like a close personal friend of his, as far as, at least by my definition. I don't know how he feels about it, but I know just from knowing him as a person that he did not establish these kinds of rules with the people that he slept with at conventions. I would be shocked if he checked IDs like we did for the event.
Yeah.
Every time someone new wanted to come to the event, we said, okay, if you are, and of course we didn't have to check if someone is like obviously over the age of 30 or something like that, but like for someone anywhere near the age of consent, anywhere near, you have to show your ID. And if you don't show your ID, you cannot come. You cannot come. Sorry. Anyway, bad joke.
Dad joke.
And I did find it very funny that people got upset when like sexual things would happen in the public space. Not like sex, quote unquote, but sexual things like sexual touching or like intimate cuddling or something like that. And people be like, "Whoa, I'm offended by that." And I'm like, then go home. This is my house, and you are following my rules. If you don't like the fact that I have changed the rules to say that people can, with full consent, over the age of 18, with consent able to be revoked at any time. If you have any problem with that, then don't come. It's people will be wearing underwear. If you're not comfortable with that, then don't come. There are plenty of other furry meetups in Indianapolis that you can go to. This is my meetup, where I do things that I enjoy doing, like cuddling people.
Yes.
If you have a problem with that, then don't come to my party.
Or more. How many times did I walk in on you?
Well, again, just to be clear for the audience, because they do not know what happened, since most of them were not there.
Fair enough.
Let's be clear. Behind closed doors.
Yes.
With full consent.
Yes.
With people that I knew well.
Yes.
Generally speaking, not in every case, because, I am a person who enjoys having fun. When I say having fun, I'm a person who enjoys having sex. That is just who I am.
Yes.
If you have a problem with that, that's your problem. I am a person who does not have any STIs. I do not have anything to pass on, because I am always careful. Always. And, generally speaking, again, probably not in every single case, just because lots of different sexual encounters happen, but generally speaking, I would get to know the person very well before doing anything sexual with them. Now, does that sound like what Majira did, where he would go to he would go up to fans at conventions and just ask them to have sex? I'm sorry, that is not what I did. And if anyone would like to try to prove in court that's what I did, you are welcome to try, because you are wrong. Majira may or may not have broken the law. I don't know. But at bare minimum, he was a creepy, over-sexual person who groomed his fans, including myself.
Yes.
Now, if you don't believe my personal experience backed up with chat logs, then you are the problem. And that is my soapbox for today. I like how we went from the concept of what is an asset to all of that. So, what is an asset?
A asset is a object that provides positive money flow.
No. It is not an object. It is a thing on the balance sheet that is a positive amount of money.
Okay.
A thing on the balance sheet could be a logo. It could be a patent.
Which are assets.
Correct, but they are not objects. A patent is not an object. A patent is a document that can be stored digitally. So that is not an object.
Okay.
So, we will come back to assets and liabilities in a future podcast. We got a little bit off track for the last 38 minutes. But just to be clear, an asset is something with a positive financial value.
Yes.
And a liability is something with a negative financial value. So examples of assets would be a car, a house, a pile of driftwood that you collected from the beach and want to make into pens.
Yes. That'd be a lovely asset.
It would be.
We'll get there.
A liability would be something like owing someone money.
Mm-hmm.
Because owing someone money is something that, to you, has a negative value.
Yes.
To that other person, it is an asset. To that other person that you owe money to, it's, oh, well, I will receive money in the future. So that is an asset.
Yep.
A debt is not an object. It is only a financial transaction.
Yes.
A financial transaction is not an object. My puppy is getting sleepy, so we're going to end this episode. And is there anything you would like to say to the fans before we end the episode, my love?
No. Stay safe out there.
Yes, stay safe, my friends.
Be careful, and sometimes weird shit happens. More on that later.
Oh, God. Yeah, we'll probably have to do about 17,000 podcasts about what happened this week, but we'll save that for another time. So, thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to this on YouTube, it would be greatly appreciated if you could give it a like, a comment, anything like that. If you're listening to it on a different podcast platform, if you could give it a review, like on Apple Podcasts, that would be much appreciated. So, I have been your host, your time-traveling fox, Neil Fox. And with me, as always, is my trusty partner,
Link Labrador.
Link Labrador!
Signing off.
Signing on.
Yeah, Brad.
So this book is called More Stories from the Twilight Zone by Rod Sterling. Page number 1. You can't plan things in the Twilight Zone. You might get on a plane bound for New York and find yourself trying to find yourself landing at Idlewild in a field full of grazing dinosaurs. You might sit down ready to pound your typewriter. You might sit down ready to pound your typewriter and find your typewriter pounding you. Oh my God. You might woo and win the only woman left on your planet, and after a week of bliss, discover that she runs on electronics. Chances are you won't ever have to live in the Twilight Zone, but it's fun to wander once in a while and find out how soft, grim old reality is. More Stories from the Twilight Zone by Rod Sterling. So the first story is called The Lonely. Now I'm not going to do the Rod Sterling voice the entire time, but I'm already recording. Here we go. It was like the surface of a giant stone. This desert that stretched from broiling yellow red to the scrubby line of mountains on one side and the shimmering salt flats on another. Occasional dunes and gullies punctuated the yellow sands with thin, dark purple streaks. But for the most part, it looked endless and unchanging. A barren mass of sand that beckoned different ways and then soaked it into itself. The shack was an alien element on the scene. It stood some 80 miles from the nearest mountains. It was built of corrugated metal and had a flat, sloping roof. Alongside it was a 1943 sedan, a metal pitted windshield without glass, looking as if a wind could blow it apart. Sitting on the metal porch, shaded by the overhang of the roof, was James Corey. He was 40, with a lean, long-jawed face and deep-set, light-blue eyes. His hair, once brown, was now a bleached-out thatch that hung dry over his forehead, with streaks of gray at the temples. Corey was writing slowly and painstakingly in a large diary. Sometimes he paused and squinted at the desert around him. In the beginning, Corey had been able to lose himself in activities and forget the desert. When he put the old car together, for example, he'd been able to work 3 or 4 hours at a stretch, unmindful of the white orb overhead, or even the furnace-like air that sometimes hung heavy and sometimes was thrown at him by the wind in hot gusts. But that was 5 years ago, when he was first put down here. The old beat-up car had occupied his time. Writing his diary had done more for him than pass the time. It had been like a survival exercise, in the practice of which a man could train himself to compartmentalize his thoughts, shut out the heat, disregard the loneliness, and somehow make a day go by, and then another, and then another day, and then another day, and then another day. He had been 35 when it happened on Earth. At odd times it would come back to him graphic and clear, in actual chronology and vivid, almost unbearable recall. He could see the dead body of his wife, struck down by a wildly speedy driver. This incredibly beautiful woman, in one violent, shrieking moment, was turned into a thing of horror, to lie in unrecognizable pulp on a city street, while the drunken maniac responsible careened along to wind up against the lamppost. Corey saw it happen from his apartment window and dashed onto the street. He took one look at his wife and then ran toward the smashed car. The driver was getting out, his face ashen with sudden sobriety laced with horror. It had only taken a moment for Corey to do his job. Goaded by a fury, an anger, a hatred, a torment which knew no bounds, he strangled the man with his bare hands while onlookers screamed, and two large men had been unable to tear him away. His trial had been brief. The extenuating circumstances surrounding the homicide kept him from the, quote, release pills, unquote, that had taken long ago for gas chambers, gallows, and electric chairs. But often, sitting on the front porch of his desert home, fingers shaking, skin feeling taut, poreless, his whole body somehow mummified and foreign to him, he would reflect that a sentence of 35 years on a sandy asteroid would be less compassionate than a swift and painless exit from a black void. Corey fingered quickly through the pages of his diary from August 1993 back to June of 1990, remembering another portion of his brain long ago, how that passage of time had taken in actuality. He looked out towards the distant salt flats. He had started walking towards them 3 years ago, and collapsed 3 hours away from the shack. He knew that the heat and the desert were bars, and the area around his home was a dungeon. He didn't remember exactly at what point he had been unable to lose himself in writing or doing chores, and the loneliness of the place had taken on an almost physical discomfort. It was an emotional reaction, but it carried with it an ache in body and mind that was deep, real, and constant. Banishment was what they called his punishment. Banishment. Half a lifetime on an asteroid, visited 4 times a year by a supply ship which stayed, on average, 12 minutes between landing and taking off. The arrival of the spaceship was like a breath of sanity, a recharging of the mind so that it could function for the next 4 months. Corey penciled in the last line of the day's entry, closed the book, and felt with relief that it wouldn't be long before the supply ship came again. He went over to the car and leaned against it, feeling the heat pressing against his back, wishing in some strange, logical way that he could prescribe it. At least that would be the manifestation of his body. He would be remonstrance against the illness. But as it was, his flesh was like the sand he walked on. It took in the heat uninvited and was incapable of leaving. He reached through the windowless opening of the door and pressed the horn. It gave a deep, sludgy, raspy kind of noise, and then quickly died away. He pressed it again several times, and then turned very slowly, leaning against the door, and let his eyes travel the width of the desert around him. There was a ritual loneliness, he thought. Twice a day he went to his car to look at it, touch the horn, and sometimes sit in the front seat, staring through a glassless windshield, succumbing to a wishful daydream that the car was on the highway and there was some
I'll go back to my phone. Gotta go home, gotta go home.
The word held little meaning for him before his
To
sentence.
the ones I love.
He made something now. He meant a heat that was unbearable. He meant a loneliness
Angels
sobbing hunger for
sing
someone to be home.
gotta go home, gotta go home, gotta go home, gotta go home to heaven.
I went back to the porch, touching the
Passing by,
slightly.
brings
This
a
meant midnight was
tear to my
I looked down
eye.
at his diary, lying
Gotta
in the
go
metal folding
home,
chair.
gotta go
He knew
home,
exactly
gotta
what
go
he'd written.
home, gotta go
His mind
home
could pick up anything now, give it back to him because it was uncluttered, almost a desert itself.
as we're rounding the
15
bend.
months, sorry, the
I'll
15th
be
day, 6 months,
nearing the
year 5,
end of the rainbow
all the days
that
and months and years to say.
I've been dreaming
There'll be a
of.
supply ship coming in soon. I believe it'll be
That
due or
the
overdue.
world
And I hope it's
hasn't
Allenby's ship,
sold.
because he's a decent
I'll
man
go
bringing things for me.
back to my
The words came back to
phone.
Corey almost under
Gotta
spoken
go
well by
home,
his own
gotta
voice,
go home, gotta go home
like the parts
to
for
the
that antique
ones
automobile.
I
I was a year
love.
putting that thing together, so here it is. A whole year putting an old car together. Corey closed his eyes, touched his hot cheek and his beard stubble. But thank God, and Allenby, for that car and the hours it used up, the days and the days. I can't get it out there and I know it's real. And reality is what I need. Because what is there left that I don't believe in? The desert in the wind? The silence? Or myself? Did I even believe in myself anymore? Harry opened his eyes and stared out towards the salt flats. Just joking. That was Friday's diary. It was a crazy quilt. Unrelated facts, emotions, thoughts, and attitudes. Opinions that could find no rebuttal. Because they could not be related to anyone else. I like the car, I thought. I'm just an item sitting in the sand. Then would I feel loneliness? Would I feel misery? He shook his head and closed off the thought process. He fixed it. Hey, how's my ice left that he gave the other day? Use it. Get open and get the can of beer and put the ice in it. I did that on Earth to leave good beer with ice. But, there was something different here, and anything here was desirable. Corey went into the shed. The room was small and square. There was a cot, shelves he had built out of laminated steel, everything studded and knotted with screws, nuts, and bolts. The bookings he had made out of a magnesium packing case, a chessboard from a strip of plastic with nuts and bolts from there. There were many pictures drawn in charcoal and then stuck up on the wall. At first he had sketched city scenes, and as his recollection grew dimmer, he began to draw only that his eyes could see and his mind contain. There was a whole wall with pictures covered with pictures of the desert, the distant mountains, the salt flats, and one or two of the pines. There were a few attempts at self-portraiture, and in some instances they were similar to Corey. Always it was a bold stroke picture of a man in front of a crowd. Always a crowd. Always a crowd, suggested by little formless waves, hints of a multitude of faces and a multitude of eyes. Corey had been a retired man once, uneasy to keep. His life had been quiet and very simple. But this sandy asteroid had changed all of that. The sun had changed it. The heat had boiled away his shyness and left a bare bone hunger for society to go on. He looked at himself in the makeshift mirror that hung close to the window. His face had taken on a mahogany hue, but otherwise he had not changed much, except for the lightness of his hair. He had taken to staring at himself in the mirror, trying to force a change in the face that looked back at him. Or he had achieved something. He had been able to alter the appearance of his face. But for those 3 days, he carried on long conversations with the face like it was a glass. Until one night he started to cry, and out into the desert night to throw himself down on the sand and sob himself to sleep under starlit skies. Nothing more than silence.
Each inside the core of him was the knowledge that he could not adversity Already he felt the pincer-like claws of its head, the nightmarish attack, as if by an invading army, had reached his brain, overflowed into the fortress that man keeps behind the eyes. A screaming horde of barbaric beasts, each drawing lifeblood from the remains of what had been. Generals, government employees, actually. Now it's time for an ad break.